My name's Pax. Welcome to the launch party for Flirt. Thank you all so much for coming. I'm really excited. This is going to be a fantastic event. And to start us off, I'm going to read Cutie's land acknowledgement. So participating in a land acknowledgement is a reminder that we are all treaty people and therefore accountable to these relationships. A territorial or land acknowledgement involves making a statement recognizing the traditional territory of the indigenous peoples who called the land home before the arrival of settlers, and in many cases still do call it home. Indigenous peoples have been acknowledging the land at the start of gatherings, ceremonies, and events since time immemorial. Providing a land acknowledgement gives time for reflection and demonstrates recognition of indigenous lands, trees, and people. Cutie acknowledges the land on which we organize. It's the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Toronto is in the Dish with One Spoon territory in what is now southern Ontario, from the Great Lakes to Quebec, and from Lake Simcoe into the United States. We all eat out of the dish, all of us that share this territory, with only one spoon. That means we have to share the responsibility of ensuring the dish is never empty, which includes taking care of the land and the creatures we share it with. Many of us are settlers here in Takaranto, or Toronto, which is situated in the larger Turtle Island, North America. It is important to keep this constantly in our minds so that we can move forward actively resisting neocolonialism in all its forms and manifestations. Okay, fabulous. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. It is at this point, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce my co-host for the evening, Sabrina Pasco. Sabrina is a bisexual Latina policy specialist from Toronto. She holds a master's degree in international development and humanitarian emergencies from the London School of Economics and a bachelor's in political science from Swarthmore College. In her spare time, Sabrina enjoys volunteering and writing about intersectionality. She's also the communications manager for Cutie. Welcome, Sabrina.
Hi, Pax. Thanks so much for introducing me and making me sound way more cool than I actually am. Welcome, everybody, to this launch event. Like Pax said, I'm going to be her co-host for this evening. So I want to say a little bit more about Cutie and the issue before diving into the pieces. But thank you all again for coming, and I'm so excited to hear them through your own voices. So little Cutie, Queer Toronto Literary Magazine is a nonprofit dedicated to elevating and celebrating queer voices in Canada. It was started in response to the criminal shortage of Canadian queer literary magazines, and there are so many LGBTQSIA+ artists out there. In times of crisis, maintaining community and connection is vital, and Cutie brings together our collective projects to create that space. We celebrate the art queer individual for ourselves and for each other. And I think Pax is going to share the link to our website in the chat, so please feel free to check it out and ping any questions that you have. This issue in particular, Flirt, is issue number 5 for Cutie and the official magazine for the 5th annual Bi Arts Festival, showcasing 17 artists and writers who identify as bi, pan, fluid, queer, or otherwise non-monosexual. So what does flirt mean? What does it mean to look across a room at someone and catch their eye? How does it feel when you flirt? What does it look like? In the queer community, flirting isn't always straightforward. We create spaces, symbols, and aesthetics to communicate, but those are often co-opted or misread, especially being bi. I can't tell you the amount of times that I've tried hitting on a woman and thought, oh my God, this is so awkward, until I ultimately just go up to her and whisper, are you queer? So this issue is all how we choose to get flirty. Just a note really quick, you are encouraged to engage with and share your reflections and responses to the pieces tonight. And please consider sending cash tips directly to the artists. Pax, our co-founder, will be linking their e-transfer details in the chat during their performances, so keep an eye out. And then the last note is just that this evening's art explores themes such as gender-based violence, homophobia, and other potentially triggering concepts. So I just want to give a bit of a content warning. Please feel free to turn off yourselves and take a break at any time throughout the event, and rejoin if and when you feel comfortable. Cutie volunteers will also stay on after the event to offer peer support and just support everyone who attended. So without further ado, we have a special Dorianne from the Bi Arts Festival to tell us a little bit more about the festival. Dorianne?
Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here today and so happy to have worked on this incredible zine that we're putting out in collaboration with Queer Toronto. The Bi Arts Festival creates space for community pansexuals and other non-monosexual queers to come together, to create, to collaborate, and to celebrate our identity, our talents. And the work we do is just super critical for challenging bisexuality, which we all know is ever present in the performing and visual arts. But I think just by being around, it challenges it in the broader world as well. We were founded and are still fearlessly led by Catherine Jones. Thank you to Catherine. And have been the world's largest celebration of BI+ voices in arts and culture since the time we were founded in 2017. In my personal connection with the festival is that I was asked by Catherine to read at the author showcase, very first festival in 2017. And after that was asked to join to organize the next year's author showcase. And that's been my primary role over the last 5 years, but I've also gotten involved in other aspects of the organizing, including the things I'd like to mention is in 2019, I was involved in the Bodies and Resistance Disability panel discussion, and that to highlight that we've always been very focused on the intersections that exist in the BI+ community with race, disability. We have all genders in our community, and we've been really dedicated to elevating those voices in ways that are joyful, as well as in ways that question oppression. So it's been a blessing to get to know so many BI+ creatives over the last 5 years of all different races, genders, disabilities, and to experience so much fantastic art on so many different themes, right? Because some of the stuff we do is on BI+ themes, and some of it on grieving, and some of it is on, existing world and having emotions about all kinds of different things, because BI+ it contains multitudes, and we express multitudes of experiences through our art. Various exigencies, including pandemic related, have led to the festival having slightly less capacity the last 2 years. So I was so ecstatic that Pax Santos from Toronto came into my life in the exact right time to be able to collaborate on making this zine, Flirt. And I hope had a chance to see some of the other things that we are offering in this year's festival, which is all on YouTube, including the author showcase. We've got wonderful authors. It's kind of a best of from our past 5 years of authors. We've got a cabaret, we've got a short film showcase, and a maker's corner, and it'll all be up on YouTube until around dawn to give people in different time zones time. So after this, you can go and watch any videos that you've missed so far. Thank you again to Pax, to Michelle Dix, to everybody at Queer Toronto, Sabrina, everybody at Queer Toronto Literary Magazine for being able to make this collaboration happen. So let's flirt.
Thank you so much, Dorianne, for being interested in collaborating with us and creating this space for queer artists. I also, like you mentioned, wanted to introduce and thank Michelle Dix really quickly, who graciously designed and beautifully designed this issue. If you haven't had a chance to check it out yet, please do. It's stunning. Michelle is a Toronto-based illustrator with a great passion for drawing comics, telling queer stories, and drawing goblins. Love that. You can find her work on any social media under at Michelle Dix Art. Is michelledix.com, which should be posted in the chat. Thank you, Michelle, for designing this beautiful and extensive. This is twice the size of any of our previous issues, so it was no easy feat, and we really appreciate it. So I think to start us off, I'd like to introduce Anita Doleman. Anita is the author of Lost Enough, a collection of short stories and 3 poetry chapbooks. She also co-edited Motherhood in Precarious Times. Poetry, fiction, and essays appear in numerous magazines and anthologies.
Sorry to interrupt you, Sabrina.
Oh, did I miss Michelle?
I think we want to give Michelle a chance to talk about her design.
So sorry, I thought she hadn't logged on yet. Please, thank you for interrupting me, Michelle. I didn't see you there. Please tell us about your design. My bad.
No worries. I'm literally eating pizza right now because I forgot to eat. Working on this was actually really fun. I've never actually designed like any kind of magazine before, and in fact, in Sheridan for illustration, graphic design was probably my least favorite class, but to work on this with the themes that we had and the beautiful imagery everybody put into it, it was really not. It was a pleasure getting to match designs to these beautiful works people put. Just, and not to mention the fun theme of like the vaporwave aesthetic is always a delight. But yeah, no, it was to get to be reached out and get to do something like this. Was crazy long though. Did not expect that when I did it, but it was awesome. And I like thank you all. I read and looked at all of your works, and they are all amazing. And it was really a great pleasure to get to contribute to that. And that's my speech.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm so sorry about that. I didn't see you in my chat for some reason.
No worries.
So thank you so much, Pax, for circling back to Michelle. And we're so glad you're here. And we're so grateful for the art that you made for this issue. So thank you. So I'm sorry about that. Circling back to Anita, who's the author of Lost Enough, a collection of short stories and 3 poetry chapbooks, also edited Motherhood in Precarious Times, which I love. Her poetry, fiction, and essays appear in numerous magazines, anthologies, including Imaginary Safe House, Art Poetry Magazine, and Crush. They also founded Ottawa's Crafty by Nature, and today they will be reading their piece, Spiced Chocolate. So thank you, Anita. If you're here, you can take yourself off mute.
Thanks so much, Sabrina. I hope you can hear me. I'd like to acknowledge that I'm speaking tonight from Ottawa, which is unceded Anishinaabe territory. So I'm going to start by reading a couple little extra poems in as well. Spiced chocolate. I stumble into the sharp edges of love for women who gift me spiced chocolate. How do they know? I can't remember ever confessing in public. Thought I had been careful to declare no preferences beyond small talk's necessities. For sunlight to descend dappled through the cottonwoods, for the damp weight of forest air to be lifted by an ocean zephyr, to contemplate copperthorns die inside Baldwin's lines, float away to Davis over Parker, but never such an embarrassment of egoism. Tropical skies around the equator whisper what I am not worth before I can dream of buying myself the expensive taste of bittersweet chilies. Yet she stands at my door, has hand-ribboned a small box of Mexican lightning for me. Cocoa so electric, it will still her name in my mouth as it burns. On a very different note, this out in Pocket Lint last year, which was issue of that, and I noticed that I just happened to be across the page from Jade Wallace as I was opening this tonight, so some overlap. Recovery room. When I wake, a steady beeping reminds me I'm in hospital before the nurse can. The character of keening from across the ward reminds me the worst pain here isn't mine. A voice whispering in blue tells me my surgery went well. The holes in my belly are bright and cold as steel. When she offers to let me feel nothing, I take it. I throw one last little poem in. This is from a little zine called These Days, which I noticed that Kasher Mohammed is in as well. So again, it's a small guy world. Language. Wolves at the nursery door, springtrap of teeth pierces thumbs and howls devil the air. Shove the language machine out to chew up its new syllables. Eat, breathe, sleep. This she could be he or not. So much of a who, they might build themselves paragraphs, windows, across the imperfect future shelves. Train all the homonyms to heel, sit, beg. Start heralding now, baby. You've got a lot of sound to beckon and to bleed. Thanks very much for having me, and thank you for this beautiful issue.
Anita, thank you so much. I mean, I enjoyed reading your piece, but hearing it, like the cadence and the rhythm, you just get so invested in it in a way that I hadn't before. So thank you so much for sharing that. It was so, like, I was so immersed in it. I'm gonna now quickly introduce Justin and Cheta. Justin is a stuttering Filipino Canadian with interests in tarot science and education. After teaching EFL in Korea for 4 years, he now lives in Treaty 13 territory. He is currently exploring his writing voice, drawing from his experience as a biromantic demisexual. Go follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Rampancy, which is in the chat. And then tonight he will be reading his piece, The Quick Guide to Dating Your Biromantic Demisexual. Justin, please take it away.
Hello, and just wanted to give a quick background to this piece. Kind of wanted to imagine getting an idea, being able to understand how to flirt or date someone in this kind of playful idea, as if you were trying to look at a quick start guide for a pair of wireless Bluetooth headphones. So I'm just going to share my screen because it's a very visual piece. There's one. Okay. Can everyone see? I think we're good. Okay. The quick start guide to dating your biromantic demisexual. The biromantic demisexual model, Justin, BRDJ, is an excellent choice for a partnered relationship. He inhabits the liminal space between allosexuality and asexuality, with a capacity for romantic bonding to trans and cis men and women, as well as non-binary people. His understanding of relationships using the split attraction model lets you enjoy an intimate dating experience with minimal sexual expectations. Before flirting with your BRDJ, please read this quick start guide thoroughly. What's in the box? The box includes 1 biromantic demisexual and 1 medium coffee mug. System requirements. To fully enjoy your biromantic demisexual, please enjoy your dating standards meet the following requirements. 1, compatibility with non-monosexual and asexual spectrum identities. 2, support for sexual identity conditional on formation of an emotional sexual activity, conditional on formation of an emotional bond. 3, support for emotionally intimate friendship in addition to romance. Technical specifications include the typical range of human hearing, with a standby time of 3 to 6 hours per day. Talk time ranges from 3 to 7 hours per day, depending on nutrition and caffeine intake. Charging time is 5 minutes with Coffea arabica extract or 15 minutes with Camellia sinensis infusion. Input required. Intense, intimate conversations every 72 to 90 hours. Sustained physical contact, epidermal contact every 12 to 24 hours, including hand-holding, hugging, and cuddling. Sexual requirement. Contingent upon sufficient emotional connection and established safety with partner. The BRDJ features Attention Now, trademarked, technology providing on-demand emotional affection with a high-performance intuition core neural processor, allowing for an immediate empathic response to your needs. Radical vulnerability includes and provides an expression of innermost thoughts and feelings at version 2.0, trademarked, patent pending. How to connect. Engage in paired activities like cooking, book shopping, watching Netflix and urban hiking, as well as bringing up topics like astrology, tarot, queer theory, and Star Trek. After an extended period, you may transition from pairing mode to friendship mode. See table 1. First, make sure you're sitting close beside your BRDJ and invite them to spend more time with you to establish a stronger connection. Tell them you appreciate them as you pour them another cup of organic fair trade coffee. Tip. Try saying, no dying now, okay? Or you're not allowed to die on me, got it? The DJ has responded positively to past partners using these key phrases. Oops. Having some technical issues here. While your BRDJ smiles and offers to repair your malfunctioning computer or electronic devices, you may transition from friendship mode to dating mode. Tell them how much they mean to you and how important your relationship is to you. When it feels right, place your head on their shoulder and sigh. Express how this moment feels so right. Share more personal struggles and offer to hold their hand. See Figure 1. Troubleshooting tips. While speaking, your BRDJ may glitch due to overactivity of their high-performance neural processor. This may cause them to worry about how they are perceived, resulting in stutter-induced anxiety. Hot tip, warning. Stuttering may manifest as difficulties in producing leading hard consonant sounds, such as ST, and excessive word repetition. Signs of stutter-induced anxiety include excessive apologizing, silence, and social withdrawal. During these episodes, please allow your BRDJ to finish speaking without interruption. Even with enthusiastic attentions from the BRDJ, pairing mode may take longer than expected to successfully transition into dating mode due to several factors. A, past trauma from emotionally and psychologically abusive family members. B, guilt, shame, and trauma from failed self-sabotage and abusive relationships. And C, fear about how you'll perceive their demisexual environmental tendencies. If these symptoms occur, please encourage your BRDJ to practice self-care through techniques such as deep breathing, meditating, or booking an emergency session with his therapist. In addition, your BRDJ may experience high amounts of stress due to fear of invalidation and gatekeeping from other asexuals and members of the queer community. And I will leave it at that. If you wish to know more, you can always look up and finish the Quick Start Guide at the QT Toronto website. Thank you.
Justin, thank you so much. I love this piece. I'm so obsessed with it. I also identify as demi and I want to share it with my partner so bad. This is fantastic. And I love, you know what else I love about it? I feel like there's such a misconception that that non-monosexual are confused, but there's such a concise knowledge of the self in this piece. The author really knows who they are and they're not confused. You know what I mean? Anyways, sorry, I'm done ranting. I loved your piece. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much, Sabrina. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
No, thank you, Justin. Next up, I want to introduce M. Farquhar Berry. M is a mixed, queer, trans, multiply disabled artist exploring transformation and growth through mixed media landscapes. In their experience, art has saved their life, providing them with creative outlets to express feelings, cope, and move forward. M is a BFA graduate holding a certificate in cultural and artistic practices for environmental and social justice. You can follow their art practice on Instagram at mfarbar. Tonight, they will be sharing their collage titled Be As Gentle As You Can. Em, I know we kind of talked about you wanting to maybe observe or participate. Please just let me know if you feel like sharing tonight. And if not, we can also move on to the next artist, no problem.
Okay, I guess because mine is a visual piece, I don't have much to perform. And as a visual artist, I'm a bit scared of performing. So I will share my screen so you can have a brief look at the collage that I have in the zine, and then we could probably move on unless there are any questions or anything like that.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it kind of explains itself. So I'm just figuring out how to share my screen here. Okay. Are we seeing it?
Yeah, we can see it. Thank you.
Okay.
Are we allowed to jump in with a question if we have a question?
Sure.
Hey, it's Catherine. I'm off camera.
Hello.
It's nice to meet you, face to face, as it were. I'm just wondering, I'm a collage artist as well. I love collage. I'm wondering if this is a medium that you choose for specific reasons. Do you do other art practice? Is there something about collage that lets you express what you want to share or say to the world specifically?
Yeah, I call myself a mixed media artist, and that's because I jump around from a lot of different, using a lot of different materials, and I'm not set on just one medium. But it was during this pandemic that I found collage and began creating in collage nearly every day. It has really helped me. And during such a time of transition and being uprooted, and like I had a big move, I had a lot going on, we all did during this pandemic, I found collaging to be the most accessible. And that's because I could just pick up any material I found and create with that. So that's been my way. I kind of think of it as birds building nests. I think of it collage like that. So I'm collecting and I'm creating and I'm resting and I'm returning. And yeah.
It's lovely. Thanks for sharing. It's has a really nice balance and weight on the red flower. Is it a photo or is that sticking out?
It's a photo. Yeah, so during the pandemic, of course, I was just being such a hard time. I just wanted to put the message out to be as gentle as you can with everybody, whether that's people you're flirting with or your friends or yourself and the community. So this is my contribution, and I am so honored to be included in the zine with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Em. I love the message of this piece. And yeah, just reiterating what Pax said in the comments about being gentle with yourself, especially about during this time. This piece just feels very like emotionally supportive when you kind of take it in, which I don't know if that was the intent, but I love the message. So thank you so much. I want to now introduce Vibeke Silverthorne. Vibeke is a multidisciplinary designer who creates illustrations and hand-drawn typography. Her works observe simple joys and awkwardness of identity using humor and a playful style. Tonight, she will be sharing her artworks entitled "Are You?" and "Tell Me More." Thank you, Vibeke.
Vibeke, are you here? My apologies, Sabrina. I think Vibeke was unable to make it tonight.
Oh, no worries. Okay, well, we'll just say a thank you to Vibeke in spirit. And you can check out their piece in the issue.
I'll link their work in the chat.
Okay, the next up we have Best. Tamara started coming out and writing poetry in 1994 and has compiled this writing into a manuscript titled History Lessons. Hopefully it will be published sometime within the next. In this magazine, in the meantime, you can read more of Tamara's writing in the Water Wheel Review, Sparked Magazine, and Non-Binary Review. Tonight, Tamara will be reading Numerology Office Lunch. Thank you, Tamara.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Two pieces. The first one is called Numerology, and the second piece is called Office Lunch. And I pre-recorded them. So are they available to play? That way, because I do stutter, it was nice to have it.
I can definitely share screen.
Without the jitters.
Yep. If that's your preference, just give me one moment here, my dear. Okay. Let's share screen. There we go. Is that centered okay?
I'm not the tech person here.
Can you guys
Even this was my eldest was helping me out with some of the videos. Merging, I don't even know.
We can see it okay, Pax.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. All right, I'll play it.
Numerology by Canada. Multiply. Catch me on the page and write a table of contents for me. Draw me along the compass and send me in circles. Do I fit on your ruler? And should I figure out how long the page isn't? In your foggy place of 10 digits, make me a part of your equation. Can you build me a kitchen tonight? I want to practice my long division stir fry. And then, after dinner, let's slip between the ruled sheets to do some multiplication of our own. We can swap tabulations like keep nothings and repeat the 2 times tables like pickup lines. The calculator is our great image. And our love is in numerical order. On the weekend, our favorite pastime is 3 times 23. You do the math. Our addition is perfect, and I never dreamt that someone could round my decimal points like you can. Let the neighbors do their fractions. The only excitement in their lives is their phone number. We've got our abacus, so nothing is going to be in error now. You plotted yourself on my graph, so we can flip, slide, and rotate through all our transformation. And I know that I will never do geometry alone again. Office lunch, my camera event. This is life on a park bench. Galahad arrives in lingerie. The wisdom of King Solomon turns cranky. The other men sitting nearby are turning pages, though they could just as easily change to politics. Someone in the distance is selling lipsticks of loneliness, because that's the way to be in a corporatized time. You and I have chairs of simplistic adulation, where we share discussion concocted on enigmas. And our class of sex is not determined. Shall we go to the show tonight? Which really means, shall we lounge naked in the middle of winter while singing jazz riffs and sipping hot tea? Softly, teach me to become a jester. It is such an exquisite philosophy. My ordered mind becomes a choir of telegrams passing the message on. This straightened away wonderland, we are expounding the new time perfunctory. Our faces are a flash of a grin, warmed next to a sleeping leather jacket. All this happened on the edge of an afternoon, marvelously and blue plastic. But this is what
Tamara, thank you so much for that. I just love how your pieces captured the theme so on point. Like you took flirt and it was like so on point. Pax, are we okay? Can you hear me? Sorry. My Wi-Fi is going in and out, so let me know if you're having any technical issues. Thank you so much for those pieces. They were such a joy to hear, and they were fantastic.
Thanks for including me.
Next up, I want to introduce KR Bigden. KR lives in Chibuktuk, Halifax. Their writing has appeared in journals and anthologies across Canada, the UK, and New Zealand. Their debut novel is forthcoming in 2022. Tonight, they will be reading their piece, Night Out. Thank you for joining us, KR.
Sabrina, good evening, everyone. Yes, this is Night Out. 1. Leather jacket, the only half-decent dive bar left downtown. I turn around and unexpectedly, there you are. My drink drips toad blunnies. Your chapped lips purse playfully in reply. Just like that, we hit it off. I feel young again, giddy, almost emboldened by our banter. 3 years and 1 smoke break in, the question is asked. Are you? Lie. That's too bad, you exhale. I have this friend. You let the possibility of the world of hunger, desire, pleasure linger in us like out of smoke. It dissipates. We separate. I leave before last call without saying goodbye, without making eye contact again, though I want to. You don't even notice me go, probably. 2. Blurry drive home. It's cold for this time of year, but I leave the window down anyway. Fill and empty my lungs with sharp air. Stitch my body and brain back together. Come in the door. Lock it twice behind me. Enter domesticity. I kept the cigarette you offered in my pocket, crumpled and unfinished. Remembering this, I reach for it with fingers full of longing. Dead leaves bruised by hasty knuckles release a smoky, sweet scent. Evidence of an alternate universe fading now. Thoughts clutter my mind, supper dishes still in the sink. I should water. Nachos. I need to pee. There's a cat on my shoulder. I have a good life. 3. I leave the lights off as I undress, slip with a sigh, match the rhythm of their breathing. In, out, in. The heady cloud of you is still caught in my hair. An almost borrowed life tingles on my wet tongue. My hand slides towards them in the dark, desperate to hold, be held, but skin stops just short of skin. I can't close the distance, hold my breath instead. The cat jumps onto the bed, settles into the chasm between us, her warmth on my chest purring in, out, in. She does her best to fill the hollow space inside me, eroded over time by the steady flow of days, late and later nights at the office, forgotten anniversaries. I think of our jackets hanging up in the hall side by side. I've never. They'd look much better in leather. In the morning, I'll throw your cigarette away. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, thank you, KR. That was another piece where I already loved it, to hear it. I could listen to that on repeat. That was amazing. Thank you so much. So next up, we have Boltwood. Alana does not limit her favorite art tools include 1/8-inch masking tape, round nose pliers, a macro lens, and a script brush dipped in dioxazine purple liquid acrylic. You can follow Alana Boltwood, and tonight she will be sharing her piece titled New Lovers. Thank you, Alana.
Thanks so much. And it's pretty simple piece. Since we have some visual art here, I'll just talk about other things. Actually, maybe I'll just explain that the 2 little chop marks at the top and the S curve at the bottom, dioxazine purple. It is an absolutely beautiful color of acrylic, a little expensive. as the beautiful colors often are. And this is first in a series of 4 pieces that I'm just making abstract shapes. But this first, lot of curvaceousness, and I thought it might be the thing for our flirtatious issue of this issue of this magazine and of this festival. So talking about art, I'm a kind of a random creative person. Doing everything's in series is tough. Doing even 4 pieces of the same style is tough. They're not coming out easily. The first one, it just came. It just emerged. The colors went wonderfully, and I can't get it right for the second one or the third one, and the fourth one I haven't even started because it's so hard to do the same thing over and over. So today I went to visit a friend, and we agreed to meet at the top of the Baldwin Steps. I live on Spadina near DuPont and Davenport, and thank the land acknowledgement packs. I live on Ishpadina, on the trail that goes up the hill to the trail that the Wendat and the Anishinaabe crossed for hundreds or thousands of years before we got here. And then I went up the cliff, the Baldwin Steps, to visit my friend. And we talked about the difficult relationship of art and capitalism and how we keep a roof over our head by doing things that are really art, though we might use visual techniques in working within the corporate sphere. And on my way back, I took some pictures of like Davenport Road garages that were rusted, and they had so much texture. Clearly need to be renovated and replaced, but before they do, I got some photos and I played with Photoshop, and I've got a piece I'm gonna post to Instagram for you folks. In fact, 2 of them. There's one in hot magenta, and there's one with a lot of oranges that I'm gonna put together, and we're just going to play around. So I'm hoping everyone keeps playing around with their art. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elena. I love that this piece is abstract, but you automatically get the impression that it's flirtatious just through the colors and shapes. Like, it really does speak for itself. All right, so I think we're gonna get back into the flow of things, starting with Alyssa Machado. Alyssa, artist from Ontario and now resides in Toronto. Graduated from OCAD University in 2016 with a bachelor, with a Bachelor of Fine Arts, drawing and painting, and minoring in printmaking. Painting and printmaking are her primary practice. Her current work revolves around themes of color, line, and shape, and how they interact with one another. You can find Alyssa at her website, Machado.com, and on her Instagram at @thatglitterchick!! Tonight, Alyssa will be sharing some of her photographs. So thank you, Alyssa.
Hey everybody. So my work is actually not photography, or well, like the work in the book is photography, but my primary practice is not photography. So these pieces were actually taken on a road trip I took, and it's using expired Polaroid film. And I thought it just like captures the moment so beautifully. It really makes it look like a memory before it really has a chance to become a memory, if that kind of makes sense. So it was just like some spontaneous moments that I thought would be beautifully captured on some outdated technology. If anyone has any questions, feel free to, I'm happy to answer anything.
Yeah, Alyssa, on Bonfire Summer 2014 #1. I'm
Yes.
obsessed with these titles, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
The line is that from the top? The line going across, is that from the photo shrunken because it's expired? Is that from the fire, I don't know, I love that sharp line going all the way across and that shape that's there.
Oh yeah, so the line that kind of like zigzags across the top is actually, so the top is film that just could not develop, so the chemicals were dead. And then the rest is like the actual picture, but kind of the vertical lines, I think it was like part reflection of the fire kind of really brought out that orange, but also I noticed in that particular film cartridge, all of them kind of had that line. So I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting in and of itself. But yeah, they make for really cool photographs.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
cool.
Hey, Alyssa, it's Catherine.
Hello.
How are you?
Oh, good. How are you?
Nice to see you. First of all, I used to work for New York Public Library in like weird old technology. They used to use Polaroid film to like photograph, I guess as a backup, like the catalog cards for.
Oh, that's awesome.
But they eventually did move to a digital format based with like crates and crates of expired Polaroid film, like
oh my gosh,
probably tens of thousands of boxes of Polaroid film. And once I went down there and like carried away as many as I could, you know, potentially use. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. So I just wanted to ask you a question, which was like about like kind of the role or piece of sort of like accident, your creative process. So working with expired film, you know, you can't control it, right? There's going to be quote unquote accidents or mysteries that kind of like evolve. In your other work, it's not the Polaroid film, like in your other creative does that play a role, accident or whimsy or unexpected or anything?
It's interesting you say that because work is very planned, but I also really embrace like intuitive process. So like if I'm unquote mistake, I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna follow this and see where it goes. But yeah, I often start with it, just kind of like goes from there, and I kind of go. So happy accidents are definitely embraced.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Alyssa. I just love that you took a medium that most people would just kind of throw away and you made of it. We're like, no, this is not despicable. Like this is the beginning of something beautiful and kind of might consider mistakes. You were like, nope, that's the beginning of this journey. So
exactly.
So next up, I want to introduce Wholesome. Eric shares a house in Kingston, Ontario with 3 full-grown humans and 2 small kittens. He's been writing poetry for more than 50 years and has published a number of books and is currently at Frontenac Public Library. He identifies as bi-conforming male. Tonight, he will be reading his piece Selected Poems from Ballads from a Lockdown. Thank you so much for joining us.
There, I should be unmuted now. Hi, thank you. Yes, so I might be the oldest person here. I was born in 1951, so that's old enough to have grown up listening to AM radio and the really, you know, if you want to know if he loves you, so yes, right. So quite a few of my romantic notions. So lately in my poetry, I've been out and I've been taking old standards, torch songs as inspiration. So the first inspiration is the Rogers and Hart, and So Hard to Forget. So it's easy to remember, hard to forget. The amazing look you gave me the night we met, not completely ugly, maybe sort of smart. Friend beside, straight or gay, he said, you should just ask if I wanted to dance. Some sign, I ought to wear some kind of sign that reads bisexual, that it would help much. The intended meaning hardly ever gets through. Reluctant ears don't believe in explanations. All aside, it makes difference? What immutable you believe you are? You're only a person, and I'm a person too, imagining the ways we might fit together. So if you feel attracted, I will gladly portray masculine fool. I did say yes, by the way, on that instant. And it was worthwhile. Yes, this is Nancy with the laughing face. Off of the to me then, he's and Phil Silvers. Yes, the comedian Phil Silvers. He also wrote lyrics. He assumes he knows me because I'm standing here, polite, presentable, a sensible person. Actual, he says, as long as it's private, he's not worried. A light tone, stay open and friendly. I'm amusing if you really listen to the oblique sarcasm and the velvet glove, the taut vaudeville designed to please her, calculated humor, just one more form of drag, steering their attention to the makeup, not me. I said observations undermined with a smile. Acceptance is a spectacle without a heart. I'm your harmless Nelly, entertaining scapegrace. Nancy with a laughing face. So maybe something a little less angry. This is Lush Life, and it is very closely the Billy Strayhorn song, Diverging. I used to go to all the very straight places, collection-like places, schools and churches where life is underneath the wheel, able to feel like somebody who's. Then you being nice to a freaking weirdo. Who the other person was, as one does. New love or lost cause? You spoke to me sweetly. I tried not to be too perverse. You read me as easily as a book of light verse. I imagined my thoughts being fathomed. Guess it could have been worse. As the days by, we drew a little close. I reminded myself not to be over verbose. Then you brushed my equivocations aside and said, "Why don't we just go to bed?" Thank you.
Wow, Eric, just took me on a real emotional roller coaster ride. I don't even know what I'm feeling right now. There's a lot of different feelings and a lot of just beautiful word choice that poems. Thank you so much for sharing your poetry tonight. We really appreciate it. Okay, now I have to get centered again and introduce Camila. Camila is an autistic and multi-disabled immigrant Jewish non-binary bi-poet and a sexuality gender disability educator living on unceded Mississauguans of the land. They have been published internationally, including Magazine, Breath and Shadow, Monstering, Deaf Poet Society, Carousel, Ogre, Frond, Mary, and Queer. You can find Camila at camilarena.com, and tonight they will be reading their pieces Stagger and Tonkas. Camila.
Thanks for being here. And thank you to everyone who read and spoke before. All of your amazing. I'm just going to read one of the poems in this issue, Stagger. And first I wanted to talk a little bit about vulnerability. Stagger is basically about vulnerability, an experience that I think is consistently related to systemic oppression. Whatever makes us vulnerable, whatever carry more risk of emotional or physical violence in public spaces can usually be sometimes obviously, sometimes with a little bit of radical is digging to the marginalizations we experience in the world. Sometimes, often, there are more than one, as in this piece, and they create these compound lattices of how at risk we are, how often we get faced with that risk, how often we are subjected to emotional or physical violence. And which is a publication for the BIArts Festival. And speaking, well, our stats on risk of violence are fantastic. 75% of cis-bi have experienced sexual violence, 47% of cis-bi men. The stats folks still largely haven't discovered that non-binary people exist and don't offer a separate analysis of the experiences of trans folks, but we can assume that they're at least as grim. So most of us know vulnerability, especially most of us experience other cross oppressions by folks are more likely to be Black, Indigenous, of color, disabled, poor, etc., than the average human. Having said all that, I want to acknowledge and celebrate folks who experience high or constant vulnerability, all really hard on nurturing our joy and balancing between fuck it, I'm going to live my life anyway, tenacity. And this is so present. The flirt intention of this is see it in all the pieces that shared. And the last thing I add is that most about poetry is when it, me too. I see my internal experience on someone else's page, it makes me feel understood and not alone, and sometimes profoundly met. And so my hope for reading this piece is that it does this in the audience or someone who reads it that you or they feel validated and seen alone. A content note, there are references to public harassment, ableism, and gender-based violence. And I'm going to share my screen for added accessibility. Stagger. It's barely spring. The season just now eked out of longing and calences. Stretch their dry nakedness up and out, occasionally blossoming with plastic bags, malignant flowers flying long, torn petals. The wind howls as an average human with an average disabled body walks into it, their hips swaying, their sap rising. They have so much experience with walking like sex while working to not stagger, correcting for their fatigued thighs, trashed hips, frayed cables in their ankles, vice-pinched Achilles tendons, tilted feet, proprioception needles spinning like a demagnetized disc. One no less complex than the seeming seduction of their walk. The sway used to keep balance and momentum and swagger like a sailor's stride on a pitching ship. This body pitches all, this body blooms all the radiance and grace and averages, which is to say a lot. We're graceful, delicate people. We who throw our bodies with precision when they won't stand, roll them when they can't do the more mundane thing and walk them down the sidewalk in a complex choreography. One missed step and you fall down. Or even worse, one missed step and a passing asshole in a car on this sees you and recognizes prey. Is the dearest wish of my heart to never appear drunk. My crypt gifts eternally prevent me from alcoholizing my body, but whatever they tell you, being inebriated that renders you vulnerable. It's thinking that you are, marking you with their frat boy snigger for action. When this body walks, it's 20% focused on breathing, steadily pulling and pushing air with the small muscles of the lung sacs, the tense sheet. 20% on staying upright, gait regularly amended, arms swinging in careful counterpoint metronome. 10% lurching stick joy, hopped up in the music through my ears, and 50% watching for predators. Tonight, the sad bare trees make it easier to a striped skunk with its tail up, or a menacing human being too slow. This body knows to walk in the opposite direction to traffic. This body knows Nose insults spat out of car windows, prepositions like cigarette butts thrown out likewise, 4 tires slewing U-turn after U-turn on the quiet to follow me home. Thank you.
Camila, thank you so much for that. I'm almost kind of speechless. I think I could definitely relate to that poem, and I know many people, in the queer community have unfortunately experienced the kind of violence that that you shared and created space for us to process this evening. So thank you so much. That was really, I feel emotional. Okay, so maybe we'll just take seconds just to digest that, and space for anyone who who identifies with that, and then we will start with Anastasia Mycolos. Thank you so much, Camilla.
Camila. Where
Yes.
When I first read, obviously I had the ultimate blessing of getting to read and look at all of your pieces, which was a true blessing for me. But when I first read This Body Knows Dread, it was like every time I've walked home alone just coursed through my veins and like in through my tummy and just up into my chest, and I just felt it. And yeah, your words were beautiful, and I just wanted to tell you that.
Thanks. That is really the highest compliment. That's making me all teary and happy. Thank you. That's what I was hoping for. Like when I see myself on the page and there's that moment of, oh gosh, I'm not alone. I so want my writing to also do that for everyone else.
Thank you, Pax, for jumping in and saying that way more eloquent than I could. You're definitely not alone. And thank you for creating that space to like experience and process that. Okay, so next up we have Anastasia Mycolos. So according to Anastasia's bio, growing up in the Bahamas was very difficult and restrictive. She says, I don't limit myself to one style or a single process. The pieces I create are drawn from inspiration, experiences, and lessons learned, sprinkled with influences from the land of my birth. Anyone looks at my work and pauses long enough to be stirred in some way, to wonder, to question, to simply feel work. Tonight, Anastasia will be sharing an expression of love lost and love makes growth possible. Welcome, Anastasia.
I'm trying to unmute myself, but thank you. Nice to meet everybody. And unfortunately, I'm at another function in North. I have 3 pieces here that just opened up, and it's an auction, and there's a lot of background noise. So I'm not going to stay on, but I'm just happy that my work was accepted and being used, and everybody enjoys it as much as I've seen and looking at things. And I've ordered 6 copies so far. So I'm still working on getting some more. So thank you.
Thank you, Anastasia. And I think Pax has her pieces pulled up, so we can just kind of digest them for a little bit, or if you want to speak on them, you're welcome.
I'm having technical difficulties here.
No problem. So right now she has an impression of lost love pulled up. And now we're looking at love makes growth possible.
That one was inspired by my partner and her support.
Oh, I love
Thank you. She's been very supportive and encouraging me to get out there and actually show my work, because all I'm doing is producing a lot of work and hiding away. So yeah.
Well,
so great.
We're definitely really glad that she encouraged you to share your work so that we could all to enjoy it.
Thank you. Okay, that's
All right.
me.
Okay.
Unless you have any questions that you want to know, I mean.
Yeah, sure. If anyone has questions, please feel free to jump in.
Hi, Anastasia. It's Catherine. I just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing your work. I loved it so much. I loved, I don't know if you how well you can hear me. I just, when I looked at it, I just the stories of all the places that you've lived and people that you've loved and known. Just, they had so much history to them. That's how I understood them. That's what they meant for me is, you know, so many layers and so many elements.
Exactly.
Yeah. So thank you so much for submitting them.
Thank you. And you're welcome. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I'm not much for words. I put everything on paper or canvas. So, and now it's going to get really noisy. People are moving around again. I am going to mute myself if you don't mind. And thank everyone. And I've been enjoying reading that that have been seen, and still haven't gotten through all of it. Thanks again for the opportunity.
Thanks, Anastasia. Thank you so much.
Take care.
So next up, we have Kramer Mohammadi. Kramer is a queer Iranian-born Toronto-based poet, writer, and he is the author of 4 poetry chapbooks, and his Then Snow is out with Gordon Hill Press. Tonight, he will be reading his pieces Point-Based Queers for BO and Travis Sharp and Magna Cum Laude. Welcome, Kramer.
Hello, hello. I have so many my options that I always don't know how many I have. I have like 3 separate off buttons, and I always will like, oh, am I? So I'm. Well, so this is to any. First of all, the first poem is out to anyone who feels any point not queer enough, and the second one is to anyone who a queer Muslim or any residually Muslim, you know, culturally, you know, because I personally consider myself, I am not a devout Muslim, but I'm culturally Muslim. So it goes out people of a Muslim background who are queer. Point-based queers for BO and Travis Sharp. I'm low on queer points, masking, passing, too masculine from years of all boys school male bonding. Now they make fun of queers. When they pass you by, didn't Kay suck off AJ in the bathroom? I remember the notating sub and object, fa'il va maf'ul. Even bureaucrats annotate who's atop. 2. Oh, first of all, there's a content warning is there is scenes of gender violence and hanging of queers, which I witnessed in my teens. 2, if you like the smell of prayer halls, you're queer now, rose-watered on your knees, remembering the ritual removal forearms, foreheads glimmer. 3, when I eat bad, I eat too much, stuff my face so no air can escape. 2, say how queers deserve to die. 4, I'm low on queer points, I tell B, but I've witnessed queers hang in public squares in the cranes. How many points does that earn a baby queer? How many points redacted who doesn't even listen? Sadly non-explainable, sadly essential to my being. Sadly, the one bitter indifference cements on his face as glaciers race past the window, tectonic plates, new continents, and no emotion. And yet, B calls it violent ambivalence. 5. Angels of art tell me I'm peopled with many others, Muslim queer as talismans, to manifest nostalgia for the non-existent. Mother emotions too early and orphaned hands of faith. I'm low on queer point, erecting walls, spending years carving a logo to build a door, only to build a years behind. Sorry, not two. This is a separate poem, magna cum laude. We sleep until the staggered minarets divide the 4 a.m. air. That is a quote from Surani. I'm talking to him, thirsting. I sip the last drop of wine trickling down his, dripping onto his chest hair. I slurp it with a strand of slobber. Thirst. That's it, thirst. I'm thirsty for lips and a clawing of the spine, the beard that scratches along my cheeks in a whip of a single glance. Chest hair, round fingertip, touches ruby red lip collected in a glass of wine. That Behzad liked his men. Ruby red lipped and cypress statured, and Rumi wrote 3,300 plus ghazals, thirsting too. A young boy, round face, brilliant like moonshine, an object of desire, and his naive come throws counting as the most transcendent. This duality of function, this holy impatience, this conception of the Sufi come divine. And I'm going to end with this tiny thing because that is not in the thing. And it is a reworking of Shakespeare's sonnet number 1. So the work I worked off of is from sonnets, Shakespeare, Sonnet Labay's work on Shakespeare, reworking Shakespeare. And my work is a queer reworking of that reworking. Unmasking a famine, we desire creatures within ourselves. A mirror violence is this tender air and heirloom, to be beside oneself in abjection, as one is beside oneself in the mirror. The stylus that writes the binary. I, grass-rooted at the we, culture's wasteful confirmation bias of the death that affirms pities the world into fear. A simulacrum to thy sweet self so cruel a stage to outgrow. Healing at famine's frequency, silence is broken by abundance, lies what reminds. Whets the hunger. Disgust is the queerest of emotions. No objection surpass my own queer body. Thank you.
Kramer, thank you so much for sharing. And I just wanted to emphasize what Pax posted in the chat about staying after to anything that, tonight has brought up for you. I love the concept of queer points. I think it gets at like queer erasure so well, and especially when it's like kind of put against the concept of queer violence, right? It's like if you're not queer enough, you're not accepted, and if you're too queer, you could potentially be putting yourself in risk, right? And I thought your pieces highlighted that so well, that kind of like juxtaposition. So thank you so much. That was really beautiful. Next, we have Teresa Slater. Teresa is a neuroqueer artist, writer, and servant leader working diligently in her studio and in nonprofit administration for an artist-run experimental media organization. She is a MA graduate of OCAD Contemporary Art Design and New Media Art Histories with a concentration in feminism and technology. As an artist and writer, they work with creative facilitation, new materialism, and digital bodies. Tonight, Teresa will be sharing her art titled Contemporary Oracle. Welcome, Teresa.
Hi, thank you so much. Happy to be here. So I wanted to take a minute and introduce myself and my work and where this piece came from. This is on page 63. Thank you so much for including me. It does feel pretty amazing to be other bisexual queers. So this is the piece, and it is, it's kind of aligned with my art practice as a testimony to the psychedelic aesthetic. Not only am I bisexual, I'm also mad, and I'm very excited about the psychedelic renaissance that's happening, that's being funded across North. And I like to think that some of that aesthetic comes out in these pieces. I'll show you over here. I did make NFTs of these. They didn't sell. I tried my best. It was an interesting market. They also, as a collection, there's a kind of a trick or a technique that I want to share with you for altering your consciousness. You would use a candle and go into your bathroom and turn off the light and stare at yourself deeply in your eyes, and you'll see your face starts to quiver or move. There's a lot of kind of like restructuring happens with what you see. And this was taught to me from Jane Ely. That's the lineage of this practice. And then I also want to note my amazing queer stepchild who taught me this particular edging and liquidizing technique on my eye. I also like to give a shout out to Portia. Yeah, they're designed for the screen, and I'm happy to see them in the Flirt magazine. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Teresa. And sharing the like context and kind of what was involved in the behind the scenes process. Because when I saw these, I was really wondering like what inspired that, and the kind of like, psychedelic themes that you brought up. Totally, I was like, oh, that's okay, great. That's the explanation I was looking for. So thank you so much. Yeah, definitely a very unique technique, and it looks like other folks here tonight are excited to try that as well. All right, so next up we have Jade Wallace. So Jade's poetry and fiction have appeared in Canadian literature, this magazine, Hermione Annual, and elsewhere. Their most recent chapbooks are A Concealed Design and A Trip to the Zoo. Under the moniker Made. You can find Jade at jadewallace.ca. And tonight they will be reading their pieces Confantasia, Anyone can find the dirt in someone, and Love is a place, but you cannot live there. So thank you, Jade.
Hi, yeah, thank you so much for having me this evening. It was lovely to hear everyone reading their pieces. I'm actually probably just going to read the first two poems, just for the sake of succinctness. So this first poem is pretty self-explanatory. I do enjoy reading it out loud. I find it a bit musical. So it's literally got the title Confantasia is a musical term. It's like a notation you put on music. Imagine. That's apparently how you're supposed to play the piece. Confantasia. Stranger, I am in love with her, and there is none but your silhouette to tell of tinnitus turned to a chorus of bells of my blood become hope. Cut me open, I iridesce, organs frost with a froth of pearly cream. I am bubbling, a drifting sky-bound ring, hollowed to a sparrow's skull, doubling as an offered cup. Me up, lest I alight on false and fragrant cypress with its cochlea of years to hear me declare a do with world and time. Swear me not a liar, though the stroke of a mislaid finger could so easily make me sing. So that's the first one, and then I will read the second one. And I'll give a slight background on this because this poem actually started, I kept coming across these bits of Christian verse that sounded extremely erotic. I'm just going to compile them. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them yet. And I eventually assembled them into a poem. The versions you see here are a little bit altered. The italicized text is just my additions. And it's a bit of a cut up poem, but I've taken some liberal items with paraphrasing it a bit, shall we say. But things like blowing and glowing are directly Christian verse. And it always fascinates me how like erotic Christian verse can be, because it always seems like the author to me wants to have sex with God or something, which just seems so queer. And so, or a bisexual zine. Anyways, this is Dirt and Someone. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was dirt, and dirt was God. Blowing and glowing. Palms up, eyes open, knees down. Drop the off. I recite the ritual, make sure I am ready, prayed up and available. Even if you love it, I hear, it can still feel I am consecrated to the exertion. Everybody wants to come to the party, but I will be the one for the mess. I have seen smut in your eye, but it could have been in mine. Restless love. Rise like an acorn, ready to become the oak. Wood growing in the warm aura of a sunlit day. Occupy spaces fully, twine in them and use them to twine to others. The love we are given is not meant to be held on to. Stay inspired, grinding skyward. Do it again. The skies declare the work of your hands. Have sort. Discovered my took a reward on every corn floor, played the harlot but could not be satisfied. The right instrument makes all the difference. I have drawn every line of you and called it love, perfumed my bed with myrrh, apple, cinnamon. What will you give me? Blow upon my garden and eat the pleasant fruits. Let us take until the morning. Great things come, naked and barefoot. Honest to God, can't wait. That's all.
Thank you so much, Jade. I'm just reading Justin's comment here, and I completely agree. I love the repurposing of Christian imagery. I love the queer interpretation of religious text. It's really like original and cool, and kind of just on a personal note, I enjoy it because I had to go to Sunday school every weekend growing up, and was thinking this, but had not seen. So that's awesome. Yeah, and as Pax mentioned in the chat as well, please go find Jade at Jade Wallace. Thank you so much, Jade. Okay, well, last but certainly not least, I can't believe we're already towards the end, but we have Stephanie Johnson. Stephanie, PhD candidate in the School of Gender, Feminist, and Women's Studies at UC. According to her bio, she never felt like a creative individual. However, she found joy in discovering her own creative process, her artwork, and her own creative process. Love and determination. To rediscover parts of herself that she has negatively critiqued in the past. Her project, Femdemic Creations, is about letting go of self-judgment by unapologetically creating. Tonight, she will be sharing Paper Love, and welcome and thank you so much, Stephanie. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, so this is my pieces. Or one of my pieces. There's a bunch more behind me. I started painting just before the pandemic. I had writer's block in school, so I decided I was gonna put down the pen and start just painting. And I've been painting pretty much every day since the pandemic started. a little before that. And so here's the original painting of this one, which is animated as well. I do have them as NFTs, and Arch just helped me let go of a lot of imposter syndrome, kind of get constant anxiety and voice in my head telling me I couldn't, you know, be a creative person, or that I wasn't enough. So it's kind of happy accidents. It's all fluid paint pouring. It's a lot of paint on canvas, and I move it around a lot until I get something I like. So since about a month ago, I started putting the artwork on clothing. So this is the piece on a scarf. And it's the same piece that you saw in the photo. And those are made in Canada and can be found on my Instagram. So it's kind of evolved into this much larger thing. I do run a nonprofit organization called the Ontario Digital Literacy and Access Network that focuses on getting technology to older adults who don't have it. So some of the proceeds from this artwork has been going towards building that project and the programming, since we're a volunteer-led organization. And it kind of goes full circle. So yeah, Odlin, there's Odlin. There's the shop, like Galeriste, where all art is put onto clothing. And yeah, if you have any questions for me, feel free to ask. And it's really great to be here amongst so many like talented people. I usually am stuck in the academic world, so I don't usually get to.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Steph. I think Pax shared the link to your website in the chat, so everybody please go check that out. I love that a lot of your work is inspired by this like self-acceptance and moving past imposter syndrome. I think that's something a lot of us can relate to, both, you know, being queer and in our professional and creative lives. So it's really inspiring. Thank you so much. I did also notice, sorry, in the chat that Vivek is here. So I don't want to wrap up just yet. I want to circle back to Vivek Silverthorne quickly, if you're interested in sharing your piece. Vivek is a multidisciplinary designer who creates illustrations and hand-drawn typography. Her work observes the simple joys and awkwardness of identity using humor and a playful style. So tonight, I think she will be sharing her artworks titled "Are You?" and "Tell Me More." Are you here, Vivek?
Hi. Yeah, sorry. I wasn't sure if I was going to share or not, but I was very inspired by everyone sharing and talking about their works. Let me see if I can pull this up on. Sorry. So I do a lot of just like typography and calligraphy, and I just usually use it as like a way to kind of joke or talk kind of lightly about things that interest me. And yeah,
Vivek, would you like me to share my screen and pull up your work while you talk about it?
If you could, sorry, I'm trying to figure out a way to do it.
No problem, let me do that for you.
I should be used to sharing things digitally at this point. Thanks so much. Yeah, I submitted 2 pieces into this zine, and I thought it was really, as someone who is kind of always trying to still find their place within like the label of bisexuality, and as someone who, as you may be able to tell, is generally a little bit awkward, I thought the concept of flirt was like something that I don't know if I always deal super well with. So I thought it was an interesting kind of space to bring some of my work. And so from that, I kind of just pulled, I guess, from my different experiences of trying to connect with others. And so my first piece, are you ... talking kind of more about the awkwardness, or like the kind of uncomfortableness of trying to suss out if people are interested or are aware, as someone especially who I feel like doesn't necessarily present outwardly as queer. I feel like trying to constantly navigate like what are ways to kind of signal to others. So this was, I love your style, and some different kind of navigations there. And the caption I have is the constant back and forth of trying to communicate while like dancing around the subject. I like your style is a way to kind of suss out the situation, and through glances and questions that don't really ask what you want to ask. But at least you can say, I like your style, and hope they know what you mean. So that's the one piece, and just kind of bringing in some elements there. I just wanted to make these kind of playful and fun. My other piece is, I think, Tell Me More. And that one is a little bit more pulling from, I guess, pulling past from kind of reaching out to people, but also talking about like the feelings you have when you're with a person. And Tell Me More about that article you read is kind of pulling of just the like feelings you're not always necessarily sure at the moment whether they're feelings of like full affection, but you just want to keep hearing about what that person is interested in. And yes, keep telling me more about that article you read, or about the thing you saw, or that really cool rock you found. Like sometimes you don't know what you're feeling, but you know you feel happy when they're talking to you, and that you're privileged enough to learn more about whatever they found and whatever they want to share. So that's, I was actually thinking a little bit about like, is this my love language of just telling me interesting things that happen to you? And I find even with like, both with relationships, but also with like my like queer friendships, there's so much of this like loving through sharing all these like intimate things and stuff in your day, and like the constant communication of just like oversharing all the time. Yeah, those are my two pieces. If you have any questions, you can ask, but I just wanted to share. Also, I was just seeing the chat popping up, and yeah, the little like I love your dress, or your dress is so cute, or oh, the eyeliner, or like that really like experimental like lipstick, very cool. I'm really into that. Yeah. I could definitely, I do like the awkward eye pin. I feel like that could be a future project. But yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. And I feel very grateful to be among all you other artists and creators. I've seen so much really awesome work and heard so much amazing stuff from all of you. So thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Sabik, and I'm so glad you decided to share because I love your pieces. Okay, the first one really makes me laugh because I'm like, yes, this is so relatable. And the second one is just so romantic. Like, how heard and seen do you feel when you're like, oh, it's nothing, it's stupid, and you're like, and then your partner goes, no, tell me more, and you're like, oh, like it's such a it's so subtle, but it's so romantic. So I'm so glad. I love the pieces, and I'm so glad you decided to share. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
All right, I think that's all we have for this evening. I just want to thank all the writers, poets, artists, makers, creators, everyone for allowing QD and the Bi Arts Festival to share your work with the world. And thank you to our amazing volunteers at QD and at Bi Arts Festival, without whom neither the organization would not exist, and this evening would not have been possible. I want you to check out also the By Arts Festival events at byartsfestival.com and on Instagram and on Twitter and Facebook at By Arts Festival. If you like tonight's event, please consider signing up for our newsletter also at qtmag.ca to keep up with our event submissions and submission deadlines. You can also follow us on Instagram at qtlitmag. Flirt is currently digitally available for free at qtmag.ca, and print copies are available for purchase as well. Finally, if you felt inspired by some of tonight's performances, QT has an open call for submissions right now on the new theme, Defining Queer Liberation. So make sure you check that out too. And yeah, thank you so much everyone for coming tonight, and we really hope you enjoyed it.
One quick additional thank you. Thank you so much, Sabrina, for hosting tonight. Sabrina's a volunteer, I'm a volunteer, we're all volunteers, and she took the time out to get to know each of your pieces intimately and really connect with them emotionally. She's a triple Cancer and really came through. So thank you so much, Sabrina, for hosting. You did a beautiful job.
It's true. I cried during like dog commercials. I'm very emotional. So thank you for bearing with me as I kind of enjoyed your piece.
Thank you so much, everyone.